Fellow travelers, join us on a journey into dissonance, a sense-making sojourn through humanist nightmare fuel. If you are receiving this transmission, then you too are part of the resistance.
Hey travelers, in today's stream we continue the conversation around the perpetuation of violence in Black communities. What started with a slap has now led us into religion, codependency, addressing mental health issues, unresolved trauma, and the roles we all play which keep cycles of abuse going in Black communities. Have you ever questioned what it would mean to the powers that be if Black people everywhere supported one another around these same issues? Reflect on it as we listen in now.
Okay, everybody, we just came off a deep exchange. Deep exchange between Dr. Siraj and Nadine Pueros, sort of a pre-stream, sort of a time of preparation, maybe a little bit of palate cleansing, maybe even a little bit of foreplay, right? Like these things are all necessary so we can get good and juiced for what we're about to get into, because we're coming at you with this continuation of the previous episode and a startling emergence of perspective from a very broad swath of the Black community around justifications for violence, very nuanced perspectives, right? And we tried to really get to the core of it, right? Like the core of it not being that Black people need to learn how to behave at the Oscars, right? No, fuck the Oscars. And fuck everyone's perspectives of how people of color need to behave in one way or the other. They can go fuck themselves, because we have some stuff happening in real life. Well, that's real life, but this is real life with a client that we're working with at present. Give me a second here. Let me just adjust some stuff here. What do you guys think? Let's go to something different. See what
we got here.
Yeah,
ooh, I'm digging these. Oh,
yeah, it's gonna be pretty. Yeah. Okay, folks, we're dub grooving here. All right. We'll get into this later, but we also have someone, a client, a Black woman, a single mother, trying to make it in this world, made some choices that many people can make, right? There are people who make these choices, a sense of, I'm going to go get mine. We've discussed this individual before. It's a larger case that's ongoing that Nadine and I are working on behalf of this individual. We believe that she is certainly to be held accountable for the charges. I mean, no one's disputing that she did what she did. It's just that some people, like CEOs of larger corporations, they can do a similar type of thing, or individuals at that level, and they are rewarded for it, right? And this individual is not rewarded for it. A Black woman, a single mother, trying to support her kids, and when she comes into the justice system, she is met with a strange form of, we're starting to think judicial misconduct in this just implicit and explicit bias towards this client, and with a perspective on how someone like her, how a Black woman should behave, should be in different social spaces, whether professional, whether interpersonal, whether community based, whatever the case is, right? How they should behave. A lot of people also talking about how Will Smith should have behaved. We're gonna go deeper still, deep waters we're getting into here, because I think, Nadine, I think you told me you came away with some real perspectives that kind of percolated within and emerged. So what were those about? What are you getting into?
I think where I was going with it is just kind of connecting with I kind of got in a little bit to like things that's out there about Will and Jada's relationship, and about, I know, right? But like not from a lens. Like, stay with me. From the lens of like codependence and all that ties into that, the addiction to that. Yeah. And like, my personal journey with that, because I heard a lot of things about like narcissistic, and like I even tell my kids as I'm talking to them about it, like I always describe it for myself as a reminder that there are two types of narcissists. And like a lot of times I identify with like being the victim, quote unquote, of the narcissist, but I have to remember that that's the type of lifestyle that I kept going. I kept feeding that type of energy to stay in my life. And no matter which end I was on the scale, like I kept that going. I kept the thread going. Like I would be the I don't know, what do you call it? I'm at the other end, okay? The like narcissist, and then I don't know. I really don't know, because I just have considered myself like I think in
the opposite way. It's like,
and almost the opposite, but like it is the opposite.
I wonder what the opposite of a narcissist is. Maybe like a pure empath that just feels everything that other person is feeling, so it is completely absorbed in the other rather than in self.
That's a pretty good description too. I don't know. But yeah, so I basically was just looking in that way, and like I guess just realizing or not realizing, but like connecting it with what's happened in my life, like how I was when I was trying to like sustain this lifestyle of codependency, like it, which sounds kind of weird to say, but like I think of it in that way because I kept, like after a while I realized that I didn't just keep going back, I didn't just keep falling back into it. I kept making the decision, like, whatnot. So I said all that to say, like, I don't know, we were kind of talking last time about, or not last time, but we kind of mentioned like, mental health, and like just went in that direction. And I know for me, that's where my journey took me, because there were times, like I watched a lot of things that were saying like, Will is, being controlled by a narcissistic woman. And like, I understand what it is like to be like, I didn't like how, what I was watching, it seemed like they were kind of snatching all Will's power and being like, okay, no, don't look at this person, look over here at what's going on. And it was like still too narrow of a lens, I think, for me, but I still took what I, could from that, because like it does seem to fit. I don't mean to like say that I know what's going on in their relationship, but just from the information that they have put out there, even. And like, but I know what it was like and how I behaved in different ways that, have definitely like some real regrettable choices that I've made, and harmful choices, Yeah.
I mean, codependency requires that, right? There's going to be, I mean, how does one find a balanced codependent relationship? Like, both parties are equally narcissistic, and they just find this beautiful space in which they coexist. I think that would just be a good relationship. it'll be balanced, right? Like, I don't know. So you can't really be that way. I think there is possibly, or I mean, it's likely in a relationship that you find an individual who is the narcissist, who love bombs the person on the other side, who is likely they're just in the most base level of seeking external validation, right? They have such a damaged ego that, like, all sense of self-worth is just gone, right? Self-esteem is just gone. So they're a super low, ultra low self-esteem individual. And when that person gets love bombed by an individual who also carries a charisma that kind of goes along with the narcissistic personality, that can work real good. What do you think?
Well, it can work real good. Wait, so like for who?
I mean, I asked because we can't talk about Will and Jada because we don't know, right? We don't know for real, but we can talk about ourselves. We can talk about people that we've seen go through stuff like this.
So I don't think that any type of, like, I know for me, when I was seeking external validation, it was a never-ending game. It was a never-ending thing. And also, I know that, narcissists that have been in my life, for them as well, I noticed when I stopped seeking that validation, like, it was the never-ending thing of, like, a need to, like, cut me down and make me need.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so
yeah, that's the back end, right? Like,
it never got accomplished. Nothing ever really was like, yes, now I'm here in bliss, or it was maybe for one party or the other, and then the other one is miserable.
Right.
So it's because that's how it works.
Right. So where did that journey take you in terms of kind of going more into understanding how codependence plays out within relationship dynamic? I mean, did you think more outwardly, or continue in terms of this circumstance and how people are thinking through it, or did you kind of go inward in terms of codependence as it manifests in your own life?
Well, I thought about it in a couple ways. I thought about in my own life, I will say I thought about how I have, like I said, I've acted in ways. I've definitely acted in violent ways. I've acted out, to feed the relationship that I had. But I also thought about it as far as how people are reacting to it. And, like, I've seen a lot on the internet, like, a lot of other Black women, supporting Will's actions and condemning people for, like, not understanding about, like, a woman being unprotected and needing that protection. And I also I think I've somewhat tied that into, like, my own thinking about my needs, and feeling like I needed to be protected, and what I was willing to, I don't know, what I was not willing to accept, like, what I thought about violence, as long as it wasn't on me. Like, if it was turned in a way that felt like, that's you using that weapon for me instead of against me, that felt like that's something that I've definitely accepted and, like, been, I don't know, I would never say happy. I was never happy with that, but I've accepted it. I've accepted it as, okay, this is you showing me love in a way that's, like, it's you showing me love. I didn't even really fully go into consideration of, like, well, what do I really think about this? But, I participated, definitely. And I don't know, that's where I went, just connecting it. It may not be like a full connection, but I saw something there, I think, definitely.
It's weird. I want to speak to, it's it's beautifully laid out, right? Like that kind of idea, because it's often that people fail to see the intricate mechanism, right? Like that gear mechanism, everything just fits like clockwork, right? As people tend to say, it's a clockwork mechanism because it works so intricately. I don't even know how people work with that level of precision, right? But people in general, relative to the intricacies of a relationship or interacting with other human beings, they're not the watchmakers, they're the idiot watch wearers, right? The people who wear those beautiful watches are usually like hedge fund douchebags, and like, you know, like it's just, they are so disconnected from the intricacy of the mechanism that they're sporting on their wrist, right? Or more so at this point, these things. What?
Yeah.
What is this sorcery? Right? Are you kidding me right now? And I put this thing to good use, man. Like it's opened up a whole new, I mean, look what we're doing right now. It's ridiculous, right? But just because I mean, I wouldn't, you know, hopefully we're not the hedge fund douchebags here. I mean, we're making good use of this beautiful technology that people have created in order to you know, help people shift their focus, shift their gaze a little bit more on the human condition. So I appreciate, you know, that you went into that idea of the intricacies of how relationships work and how often we don't even take full account of, I mean, how often have you entered into a relationship and just lain in one another's embrace, you know, early on, and just, you know, playing with hair or face or something, and just been like, hey, let's just like go really deep and talk about our childhood traumas. Right? Like because and look at, you're like, well, I mean, actually, yeah, but those have to be,
but it wasn't,
you know,
a super like
some
helpful
kind of progressive situation. Like you got to do something
talk
with that.
about it.
And specifically, it's not just to talk about it, it's talk about it, just be like, look, it's then to have an awareness of how that affects me, because my sense of self places me in, I mean, I don't know Will Smith at all or much about the reality of his life, but what's been spoken about is about a very abusive childhood and very like broken self-esteem, and that's kind of my sense of self also. Like that's what came from it. How it followed me into adulthood was very much like what I imagine Will Smith may really suffer from at its most kind of, you know, basic sense of imposter syndrome. The guy has won an Academy Award for an incredible portrayal. He did Ali. He's got such a range of expression. I mean, the guy also, like, it's like a representation. I don't know. I feel like Will Smith has been some form of at least a drag on unbridled racism, because he's accepted across, you know, ethnic barriers and whatnot. He's just this like, oh yeah, Will Smith, right? That's a lot of pressure. It's a lot to gain. That's a lot to carry. And if you just believe that you are like nothing, right? It was the same thing with Michael Jackson. His abusive ass father, doesn't always have to be father, but, you know, just this sense of like a rejection. And we're just talking about in that way for, let's say, someone who identifies as like cisgender male with like a cisgender male father, but there's any number of permutations and combinations. I know you and I can both talk about mothers all day long, you know, and their effects on personality development, identity development. So Will Smith walked out there for, if it is in fact true that Jada Pinkett Smith is a remarkably narcissistic person, you know, let's just say for the sake of this conversation that it is, then she is a perfect combination, like a combinant for Will Smith, right? Like they just click together and serve one another's needs, right? So the idea of having one's needs met, it's not just like you can have your needs met in a lot of different ways. Yeah. I've had my needs met in very unhealthy ways, right? As of you, as of all of us, right? But I don't think it's like rocket science to come to this understanding, but it is rocket science relative to human development and developmental thinking to activate this kind of self-awareness. People come to this understanding about themselves, but they don't actually put it into play when negotiating relationships. Like they're like woke over here and they're dead ass asleep over here in a relationship. Like, why would you do that? Yeah. Right? Like for me, like I kind of came to a place where like I understood the cost benefit analysis, like what benefit I was seeking from someone, but the cost that was incurred, the pain, the shit, the just right? And then just coming to an acceptance that I like generally feel better in this other space. I mean, it's a big moment to come to, and I didn't come to it somehow just very quickly. I came to it with a cumulative effect of just continuing to observe my circumstances and then think, God, dude, like you're now taking kind of a third party view on this relationship and you're calling the scene that is taking place as if it's a movie you've watched like over and over again. You know exactly what each character is going to do because it's like your favorite movie. Like The Natural is one of those movies for me. So too is a very underrated masterpiece of a film. Like the first one is The Natural with Robert Redford. Excellent baseball movie. One of the best, if not the best in my opinion. Bernard Malamud story. But a story that is far too overlooked. Okay? I'm just going to go ahead and do this. Right? Just going to go ahead and type in this name right here. And just going to go ahead and click on what comes up here, and I'm just gonna go ahead and go to an image like you guys know how I need to do. Oh you guys, let's just open this thing up right here and take a look at this.
Oh my gosh, Roadhouse. Is that what it's called? Roadhouse, right?
That is Roadhouse. Look at this.
Yeah, look at
beautiful
that shot.
Man. Oh my god. That is just brilliant. And let's just look at the battles that were fought. This, my friends,
oh my god,
is what the 1980s felt like, with all of its homoeroticism that was met with deep homophobia and just said, no, we can't just be two beautiful men dancing in the moonlight with one another. We got to beat the shit out of each other. That's what we have to do. And that, folks, is how I learned how to be a man. You don't get into talking about you know, these terrible reality. Oh, let's look at this one right here. But you don't talk about terrible things. You just live with them. Look at that, guys. Do you see this? And he was a martial artist. He was a samurai. He was a Ronin samurai. He came in to clean up that one-horse town. Yeah. It's a beautiful story. Yes, folks, we absolutely have taken a detour into the weeds.
Yeah.
And
no problem.
we are expressing our love for one Patrick Swayze.
Mhm.
But we are also, as you can see with this film, and as you can see with this Patrick Swayze film contained, look at this, Patrick Swayze and Liam Neeson and
Yeah.
Helen Hunt.
Yeah.
There were
Yeah.
so many people in this movie, man. It's amazing. Oh, look at that! Look at that! A young Ben Stiller.
Oh, look at Ben! Get out of here!
Yeah, yeah. Young
I
Ben
forgot.
Stiller.
Sometimes you forget.
Yeah. So these films and the idea of when Will Smith grew up, kind of turning in back into him, you know, this is the kind of fare that we watch, right? Like, in order to fight for justice, you have to quite literally fight. But actual fighting doesn't gain anything, right? Like, the fighting for justice it's a battle of the mind. Would you agree? I mean,
yeah, and I was just thinking, like, it's much more
a battle of
nuanced,
perceptions.
too.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not this. I used to think, like, in this way that it was like this, because gestures were like in grand gestures, not just any old gesture, like, oh, I just did this. No, like a big thing, a big show of like, this is who I am, or this is what I'm about, or this is what you mean to me, is like so important. And I really used to think that way, because that's what was modeled, you know. And it took me, and it's still taking me, but like, you know, some time to even really start to hold the idea that, like, no, it's the everyday stuff. That's the shit that, oh my God, that's the shit that really gets you. It's like, oh, I just tripped up. You know, like when you stub your toe 1,000 times, the same thing. Oh,
But you don't move the furniture.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. Like, that everyday stuff that you know, that like in that everyday living, and like the nuance of every day is like where the real power is. Like, I've found for my life, rather than just trying to put all my energy into one grand gesture.
Right.
Like that moment where fighting is like, you know, that physical fighting is like, you know, that moment that they show in the movies, like where, you gotta fight for justice, like you're saying. Yeah, that's also a huge gesture. But then when we see that, and in the movies, it always ends so beautifully, and like something good happens. But in real life, when we see that played out, like, it's not that at all. You know, it's like the battle for justice is like a real war, like,
yeah,
not like what's happening in the world.
Yeah.
Not unlike, I meant to say.
Yeah. So I brought this up because, hang on, let me just fix something here really quick. Okay, just need to get rid of the other. Yeah. Okay. So based on that idea that, you know, you were just speaking about, you know, I wanted to kind of build this bridge to this idea that much of our identities are like these kind of, like you said, the toe stubbing parts of our identity, those unconscious, like reactionary type, non-thinking ways of being. They tend to be the ones that culture has reinforced, has placed in us, reinforced in us. Culture reinforces those unconscious types of patterns that are kind of, you know, neural pathways that are formed in us, that, like, even from when you're young, you know, that people say about Will Smith, like, oh man, you know, West Philadelphia, born and raised. And, you know, that was supposed to be a true story. Like, he got into a lot of trouble, and they're like, you're gonna be like shot dead by somebody, like, who's gonna roll up on you, so we're gonna send you to elsewhere, you know, whatever that was. So however that also affected him, probably everybody thought he was weak, you know, for leaving and this and that and whatever the case was. And those stereotypes of like when somebody challenges you, you meet that challenge head on and you fucking own the moment, right? Like that has also been reinforced for me. And like I kind of even still, when I feel that like choked up feeling of like, oh my God, this is a powerful moment of triumph. There are certainly moments that are beautiful and human and humanistic that I love, right? And they are beautiful moments that occur in very like real world portrayals of films, like, you know, I don't know, like Leaving Las Vegas. That was I thought that was a brilliantly excuse me, done film. But going back to Will Smith, as I mentioned, have you ever seen 6 Degrees of Separation?
Yeah. Is that no wait. No, wait. I was thinking of I have seen this. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
I mean, this is a brilliant movie, and it was, you know, what Will Smith did as his portrayal is basically like a hustler. That's what he was.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And he hustled this whole, it's like what's on Netflix now about that, like, but she's like a white girl who like is in prison now, but she was like, she hustled all the New York fashion like literati, like elites.
Anna Delvey.
Yeah, so this was sort of like about that, but it was also, it was just so brilliant the way it was done, and he portrayed this in such a brave way. Like there's two Will Smiths, man. There's like someone who understands the most nuanced places of love and beauty and trauma, and then there is an individual who has had reinforced for him these stereotypes, right? Male and female's roles, traits, behaviors show little change since 1983. Will Smith's a few years older than me, so we came up in the 80s like showing how shit was, you know, done, right? Changes in the activities and representation of women and men in society have unquestionably occurred since the early 1980s. However, those changes apparently have not been sufficient to alter strongly held and seemingly functional beliefs about the basic social category of gender, right? So they go into a lot of like data with specific categories, like defers to the judgment of others, source of emotional support, makes major decisions, assumes financial obligations. So those are very specific ideas. So we'll leave a link to this because this seems like a really interesting paper, but we may have to go into many other spaces, right? I'm just gonna give you this and help you to understand
Oh my God.
exactly what was fed to me and Will Smith.
Oh, I ate that too.
So somebody fucks with you, and especially if they're brown and other, you take this big fucking cock and you handle your business. That's how you do it. Look at this. Look at this. What is that? Which ass is he going to put that in?
Oh my God.
So, you know, we can kind of come to that understanding, right? And those stereotypes exist not just in Black American culture, they exist in middle America. Like, you know, we settle our disputes at the bar, you know, like, you know, in 2 ways. We fuck each other up, then we drink together and pass out, and then go abuse our families. So you know, it's not pretty, but you said, you know, you got Nadine a little bit more into then the stigma, because that had me thinking and going into certain stuff. But you talked about the stigma of, especially in the Black community, coming to self-awareness of these things is very difficult because the path to self-appraisal, usually through the space of mental health care, is two things: stigmatized within the community, but also the community is generally totally priced out in terms of access.
Yeah.
So it's like a catch-22, right? So how have you experienced that for yourself in terms of coming to a place of engaging in loads of self-appraisal? And what did you have to kind of come through to come to this place?
I think it's been a journey. It has been a journey. Yeah, true. It's not over.
Yeah.
But I'm saying up
The
until
journey is
even
ongoing, folks. Yeah.
this point, it's been like, woo! But yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely storm. I think the difficulty was, I realize this now. I didn't realize it back then, obviously, or in the past. But like me trying to play a part, for society, for my family, for like just in this world, like trying to play a specific part, I realized that ultimately not just me. Like I wouldn't have been able to live in both spaces. That part, it meant that I wasn't the person like that, because when I would try to assess like mental health and like things, it was always like played off and like, oh, it's not that bad. Nothing, like almost like nothing, like mental health is not like health is not real. Like, you know what I mean? So like down playing the importance of what I was really trying to communicate, and that just not being understood, I think.
So how did that downplaying connect to the part that you were expected to play? What part was that?
I think I was supposed to be the person, like my role was almost like the person that like is gonna, you can rely on this person to definitely mess up. They're definitely going to self-destruct at some point, and like, which it sounds really twisted to be like, who expects that? I don't think that it's like
that would have been a signifier to, if it was a healthy space, like to give you access to mental health care right away.
Yeah, I think definitely yes, but also I grew up in a place where it's like there wasn't a lot of access, so it was almost the attitude of like, because we don't have it, or because we don't have like affordable access to it, almost like to downgrade it to like, but we have this, we have faith, or we have this thing, and this is how we work through it, and to cope for the fact that we had a lack of access. But then,
did you ever do Christian counseling?
Yes.
Like church elder, or like an actual, person, like a mental health care professional who happens to work in pastoral counseling, which is what that's called?
No.
So church elder kind of person?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there that I feel like that was not actually very helpful. Yeah. So
I've had counseling in other spaces, but it wasn't Christian counseling. But the Christian counsel that I received was like in the church office, like with an elder or a pastor or somebody.
Why is it like the principal's office?
It was like that, actually. It really was very much like that. I honestly lost some faith once when I was sitting in, a counseling, like, whatever thing for, with a pastor, actually, and, like, he completely discouraged me. Like, it was just, like listing ways that I was gonna not succeed. And I kept thinking, like, where is your faith, Pastor? Like, needless to say, I left there and did not seek mental health, but I I did try very hard to get myself out of the financial pit that I was in.
Yeah.
It didn't work because I needed better guidance and more access.
It seems like, you know, in that respect, Will Smith took a similar path because he sought his answers in faith as well, but particularly earlier on, it was the faith of Scientology, you know, which I'm calling it a faith because they're legally considered a religion and tax exempt. So, ding dong. So, you know, he did that now, and as far as, you know, the Academy Awards and everything that he said since then, there's just a lot of God, you know, in there. How's God been working for you relative to your journey?
You saw me trying to take a sip right quick before you asked me any questions.
Yeah.
Had to get one in. Okay. Oh Lord, here we. Okay, so my journey with it wasn't enough to just be like, God's gonna have the answers, like God is gonna see us through. Like, it got me in a circle to think that that was the only way. Not to say that faith isn't good. I still have faith. I still have beliefs, but like the way that it was conveyed, it was just like, God is the only thing. Just sit here and like wish, you know, that he will somehow come here and fix this problem for you. And I never actually learned how to resolve, you know, or problem solve, like, really, you know. And then later in life, it became, I think, a tool that other people use to almost relinquish responsibility.
Yeah.
You know, like, it wasn't me. God told this to me. And so I'm
the devil was
the harbinger of like this message. Like, I will tell you, because, and it's like, and almost you can't, because listen, how can you argue with God, bruh? Like, how can you be like, but actually what we're saying, you know, like, to a person that is saying like, God has told me this, so therefore anything you say against that, that's straight from hell. Like, there's no way to really communicate. There was no way for me to really communicate, or like there wasn't a space for my truth. It was you know, closed off in that way.
Not a very person-centered approach is religious help.
No,
it's very, very other. It's very God-centered, so it can't be person-centered. It can't really be self-empowering. You're not supposed to empower yourself, right? You're supposed to be broken before God.
Yeah. And the places that I really did find, like, or even, because there have been some people who are Christians who have like really inspired me and like in my personal life, but even the messages that were conveyed to me is that they were the other two. Like, we let them in the church, but they really not, you know, they got to sit in the back pews. Like, and those are the people that I related with, that I connected with.
There goes Nadine, always hanging out on the fringe. Let's see what this little Delio has to say here.
African Americans have one of the highest rates of untreated mental health disorders among all racial groups. This is due to a long history of institutionalized racism and high levels of cultural stigma. For example, the belief that mental illness is seen as a weakness or spiritual flaw. This stigma can prevent people from accessing the treatment they need to get better. Cultural considerations are important when developing treatments for this group. Many place high value on the church and religion as a coping tool and source of strength for problems, including mental health issues. Respected spiritual leaders can be harnessed to provide support for those with mental illness in their communities. When the leaders work collaboratively with mental health professionals, then there is a potential to provide mental health expertise in a culturally relevant context, creating fair access to proper mental health treatment.
What do you think about that?
That could have been super helpful.
Yeah, but actually
But I think that's cool now. Like that's
a connective
exists. Like that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean it doesn't. I mean we still have issues where it's like in the jail. Remember when I was first trying to get access to
Yes.
work with individuals in the jail in a non court ordered fashion, right?
Mhm.
And the only people who had access were clergy. It's like it's just institutionalized in that way too. It's like there's no way to get there easily because you're seen as, I don't know, like that. It's that kind of developmental, behavioral, any kind of approach is not appropriate, but religious is. It's weird.
But you know what I found with like developmental media making, like I feel like I found that connection, and it's taken me it's not over like, but it's taken me some time, and like that's evolved for me, but like I found like that connection between spiritual, like even my spiritual beliefs, but like also just like physical, like making anything a physical reality. I think my growth was stunted there because I never got to flex those muscles or use those muscles. It was supposed to be somebody to take care of this, like not just in a spiritual way. It was almost like magic, but like
I mean, it's a whole lot of believing and not a lot of doing.
Right.
And that's why developmental meaning making has your values, are part of that trajectory, but developing real world anchors into your declared intention is really important. Right. And then it is just an ongoing path of practice. Like you actually have to do shit.
Yeah.
And not wait on Jesus to bring home the bacon, right? Like that's not something that happens. Let's see what this guy has to say over here about this particular issue.
Because sometimes when you have a mental illness, you feel so different. It's like you're not even, you feel so disconnected. Like I can't even feel like other people feel, When I would burn myself, the sound of the needle hitting my skin, I could hear my skin burning. It brings back that, okay, I am human, I am here because I can feel this pain.
I went to prison twice. Both times it was drug related. My first time going to prison is when they put all the labels on me. The psychiatrist will talk to you for 5 minutes and give you a diagnosis. And 9 chances out of 10, it's wrong. And you really shouldn't be there, because that's taking the guy that has mental challenges and placing him with the guy that's just a straight up criminal. And you know what's going to happen. It's going to be trouble.
How's that hitting?
I feel like the last one, I'm like, are you sure how many people took that survey? Because I feel like it's higher, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's always these are always difficult to get true representation on survey instruments like this, but
Yeah.
it's definitely a statement, you know. And you know, there we saw precisely how difficult it is within spaces of incarceration. And folks, why that matters is because it's cyclical, right? There is an assumption amongst justice system folks that whatever is, you know, through a person's cycle of incarceration and recidivism that leads to more incarceration, and on and on and on and looping back, getting worse, much worse. There's an assumption, especially amongst judges, that that's where real diagnoses are made, real mental health care is provided, is received, and it's horseshit. It doesn't really exist. And yet that is the, you know, kind of coded messaging that, come on, we give the majority of these individuals, being Black Americans, we give Black people mental health care. It's primarily associated with incarceration. Within communities, nothing like that is provided. Nothing like that is easily accessible. And there are a number of reasons why individuals like you, Nadine, are dissuaded from seeking that kind of health care, but dissuaded in weird ways, not only for financial reasons, but, you know, we can tip down our conspiracy hats here, but do we not want a wave, a sea change of self-development and self-awareness throughout Black American communities? Like, what would happen if that happened? What would that be?
Healing and like, what would that be? That would be exactly what is needed, like in so many spaces.
Right, but what would it be for? Okay, put it this way.
I mean,
what would it be for white empowerment, white dominance in the social order?
I mean, yeah, I see what you mean. Like, because I know for me, like, once I got to, you know, address like a lot of long, you know, being like that things that have been there for a long time, like I wanted to get involved in like in social justice in my neighbor community and like making things better and changing things for the better.
And you had two experiences with two nonprofits run by white people relative to that kind of involvement. How did those two examples of involvement go?
It was very restricting, and it was very much stay in this box. This is the box that's useful for us. Like, stay here. Don't progress beyond that. That's crazy. Go a different route.
Now to get really spicy, how did they define that box? What were you supposed to be?
The face of poverty. Like, this is a good poor person. That is really a good poor Black person. That is woman. That is, you know, struggling to keep her head above water. And it's like, wow, you know, there was an aspect of that. Like, bro, that's not untrue, but it's just, I didn't like how it was being used. And I wasn't supposed to benefit and grow in the way that I saw as a benefit, not just to me, but to my entire community. Like, all of us. And that way of thinking, it has been dissuaded. Like, don't tell us about what's going wrong. Nope. Don't want to hear. Don't want to hear that. Just keep giving us the medicine. Like, what's right? What's working for you? Let's talk about that. Not so much what you want to discuss. Like, that was the attitude, and it's been heartbreaking to realize that what's being presented is not the full story. Like, that's not or the highest value. You know, that's not where the highest value is. It's just that this is what will look shiny to you and attract you here, so that, you know, we can, I don't know,
and be exploited.
Yeah. because like this is the thing that I want to believe that, like, you know, that's why nuance is important, because it's like I can't just be like, you're horrible, like, as a person all the way down from A to Z. But at the same time, I do think there should be some accountability. Like, I feel like that was the thing that came up for me, you know, like, hold you accountable. But then when the shoe was on the other foot, and it was time for me to present the same thing, like, okay, let's hold you accountable for what you said this was, and like, this is what I want to do. That was completely rejected, and I was looked at as a, you know, disruption, like in the you know, like I was just like a troublesome problem then, or a thing in the way of something.
You know, I wonder how many scars Will Smith carries in terms of having to have made awful personal compromises in order to just exist on a trajectory of acceptance and success.
Ugh, you know what I'm thinking right now? Like, just in my experience, like, oh my God, sorry. The spaces I've occupied, like, where like ego was, you know, very much like, it was that elephant that was just in the room, like, oh my gosh, I can barely fit in this thing, you know. But like, I decided not to go in that direction. I keep deciding, right? Like, it's a constant choice. I don't even want to say like it was just then and then I decided and I never looked back. No, nuance, right? But I did decide there, like, and then, you know, like, actually, this is what is important. This is my highest value. And if I had just because for a while I did, right? I did try to like just go, let me try and just do what will be acceptable in this. Like, let me try and do the thing that they want from me. And it really was trying to do that for even the length of period of time that I did was like it was like cutting yourself. You know what I mean? It was like just again and again and again and again and again. Like slicing yourself down and cutting another piece off and like handing it over in a silver platter. Here you go. Here's that report. Here's that blog that doesn't truly express, you know, what my Black experience is. Like, all of that, I can't imagine doing that to get to the level where he is. I couldn't be doing this. Certainly, you know, I couldn't have given myself and keep like giving myself over to this life that's about, I don't know how much of me would have been left. Like,
yeah. How much of Will is left, right? Like, then that becomes that kind of question. I just saw this one. Let's take a look at and see what this guy starts off at with, specifically relative to
Coming up next on Primary Care, depression in Black men. Many suffer in silence.
We are alone at the very time that we really need to be reaching out to others.
Man, I want to Dr. Lonnie Joe.
You're right?
Yeah.
Hello, and welcome to Primary
Hello,
Care.
Dr. Lonnie.
I'm your host, Dr. Lonnie Joe. Depression is one of the most common mental disorders in the United States and affects an estimated 17 million people each year. Black men are just as likely as anyone to have depression, but less likely to get help for it. Left untreated, depression can lead to chronic conditions like diabetes, high blood pressure, sexual dysfunction, substance abuse, and even death. According to the Centers for Disease Control, suicide is the third leading cause of death for African American males aged 15 through 24. Black men can no longer live in silence and in the shadows of this treatable condition. Here to shed more light on this topic is Dr. Harold Woody Neighbors. Dr. Neighbors is a CS Mott endowed professor of public health at the Michigan State University College of Human Medicine. His research focuses on developing community-based programs that improve the health of Black men. Dr. Neighbors, welcome.
Okay, so folks, one thing that we need to really identify as it's a significant point that's being made here, that this guy, all right, so this is kind of the world that I came from. Nadine knows this well, that you come from before I went into private practice and doing community-based work as an individual entity of your authentic self-work using developmental meaning-making methodology. I worked with the University of Florida. I've been with the College of Medicine. I've been with the College of Education, College of Journalism, College of, the Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences, all the spaces that tend to have guys like this, people like this, scholars like this, faculty like this, who are doing community-based programming. That's what he just said, right? Here's the problem. The money for those community-based programs, it continues to come, it continues to flow, we continue to use it, we continue to implement those community-based programs, and we continue to provide foundations with results, in terms of whatever success measures we've put out there. But the big problem with that cycle of work and intervention in community is that it is this small, right? Like, there's no way that there are resources enough through any of these programs. If you combine all of these types of programs and all the millions of dollars that flow into those programs through grants, whether private or public, that model can never serve impacted members of communities like low SES Black men who go through the cycle of incarceration repeatedly. There's no way to do it. That's the problem. That's why it's not happening, right? What you're about to hear, or we're just going to go a little bit into, Nadine knows this, you've seen it now, right? Like, you went through this, but you looked behind the curtain. And I can certainly sound embittered because my bitterness comes from looking at colleagues and saying, we got to do more. We got to really push. And, I can't say I wasn't a dick about it at times, but I was definitely a dick about it at times, and I caused some static. But God, man, sometimes you gotta fucking just say that shit. Like, hey, it's not enough anymore to just say, but we're doing something. No, man, we're just jerking ourselves off. Then it's professional masturbation just to do that. We helped 13 Black people. A moment of silence, please. It's ridiculous. I'm
sorry, I will compose myself.
Yeah, no, I'm bitter, but let Nadine speak to it.
It because this is the thing, is that it feels, even though I understand sometimes people don't get it, but what do you mean? Should we just be people that are no, screw it, we want people to stay in a certain place, but it requires a lay down your ego type thing. And listen, I'm not saying this because I'm you guys got to do that. Me, I'm all good. No, but in this type of scenario that I found myself, I kept laying down my ego and like being vulnerable and being open and like opening myself up in that way. And I was met with people who were not willing to go as deep when it came to themselves and just like were like, no, like started to put the parameters on me because of, that own whatever was going on. There was a level of like, we want you to open up and like do that, but nope, not for me. This is not how I live my life. Like, do as I say, not as I do type thing. And that was completely harmful when I was supposed to be, the face of this is what greatness is. Like, this is how people can become, a great person and whatever. And I'm serving people, but in a way that's actually harmful, where I have to turn people away and deny them and reject them. Just like I know for a fact that they have experienced many times because I've experienced it many times, and I decided not to be that person. And that created conflict, not just between myself and my employer. That would have been one thing, right? The person that writes, that's like, woo, that's you don't want to step there. But I really took on the like, let's be open and let's, but it didn't just cause, the pain wasn't just there like between me and my employer. It was also other coworkers that it's like we could have been more, connected and or we could have, I don't know what could have happened. I just know that there was interference because I had one position and I was this like just looked at as this force of like opposition. It was hurtful. It was harmful to be like displayed as this is our, this is what we created. And they're like, no, I had fucking existed before I knew you.
Should white people run programs for the improvement of Black communities?
What?
Should white people run
okay.
programs for the improvement of Black communities?
No, we should run it. Like we who knows better? Who knows better what's needed? And it can't just be like, this is the thing. Of course, I don't want to be like, no, I should just be the only voice to like, that was the problem. I didn't want to be the only voice. I knew there are other voices. I live next door to some. I, live across the street from some. Like, I'm in it, not just because of my experience, because I'm here with other people for their experience. And that's the thing, the element that was missing. Nobody knew I were working for or was in programs, that created programs and whatnot. You don't live in my neighborhood. You don't experience what it is to be me and go into a store and experience racism. Right. Somebody's following you around the store. You don't know what it is like to deal with my mental health issues. Like, there is a huge level of disconnect.
Right. Okay, let's see if I'm interested to see if this guy talks about that disconnect. He being one of those program leaders, but being a Black American man, that's important.
Yeah.
Oh, and just Harold Woody Neighbors.
Oh.
Well, welcome to the program, Dr. Neighbors. Oh my goodness, that just sounds really good. All
Welcome
right.
to the program. Thank you for joining us, Woody. Excellent.
Woody.
Depression.
I can't call him Woody.
Everybody has touched it or been embraced by it sometimes in their life. Black men seem to suffer disproportionately from the disease. Black men. Why?
Well, it's not clear to me that we suffer disproportionately from the disease of depression.
We disproportionately
But I have to say
care.
that we, more than any other group, are not getting the help that we need
Beautifully
So
said.
the
and
results
not
of it
getting the help
stands
that
out.
we deserve.
Good point. So the
Yeah.
results of being depressed stands out because it's untreated.
Exactly. So
I'm sorry, that's a brilliant fucking
Yeah.
I'm glad they brought it up. And like
Yes.
it ain't like Dr. Lonnie didn't know that. Dr.
Yeah.
Lonnie constructs the narrative, man. Like
Yeah.
he's like he's good like that, right? So yeah, that's important, folks, right? It's not that Black men are suffering. No. That's why people are like, all lives matter. Yes. life matters, right? But just in case you were wondering, the issue is insisting on the fucking hashtag of all lives matter when Black Lives Matter is starting to like grow bigger. Like, can you just fucking sit back and let Black people have something? My God.
Like our lives.
Yeah, like no, just like
But yeah.
if Black Lives Matter is like building, well, like, well, all lives matter. You know, like, well, we didn't say they didn't. Like, it's not hashtag only BLM. You know, like, it's so stupid. Right. But that is why a lot of people of the white dominant social hegemonic order, which is a way of saying the primary peeps in the country, in case you guys out there were wondering or were doubtful about it or were feeling scared, like the Great Replacement, white people are still solidly in power in the United States of America. Right? No programs, no affirmative action, no like, look, they gave Will Smith an Oscar, and none of those things means jack shit. White people are still in charge. Now, white people feel wounded when we talk about something like how Black men are suffering from unexamined, untreated, unmitigated mental health issues. And they feel wounded because they're like, we're feeling it. Like, I have a friend, she said that to me, you know, and I was talking specifically not about Black men or Black people. I was talking about individuals with low socioeconomic status, people of every ethnic persuasion who do not have access, migrant farmers from Latinx countries, you know, specifically individuals that we work with here, undocumented community members. Yes, undocumented community members, I said, not immigrants. Like, it's I mean, I'm an immigrant, you know, and yeah. Anyway, that's another side of something we'll get into at another time. But to stay focused here, you know, this idea that there is disproportionate attention, that's what the correction was made here. There's disproportionate attention being given to the problems of Black American community members because those are the communities that are at risk. We're not talking about the great problem of white mental health crises, because there are disproportionately more resources flowing through to the aid of white people, and that has a lot to do with socioeconomics, right? So that is what they're trying to get at, and I like that they're making that distinction. It's not Black people have more problems. Black people have less access to resources to deal with their problems. Can we agree here on that assessment? Does that sound right to you?
It definitely sounds right to me.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not like Black people are just fucked up and, oh God, Black people. It's not that at all. Look at these dudes. These are Black people.
Yeah.
Black people are doing fine in the context of being able to activate their internal resources to do amazing shit like what this guy is doing, Woody Neighbors, right? Dr. Neighbors. That's the power of a Black man. But there are far many more young Black men and Black women who seek to become something like him, but don't have the access not only to school. Well, there are public schools, Faraj. Well, yes, but they don't have the access to even the cultural context to feel confident that they can do awesome shit in school, because that's not reinforced. It's seen as uppity, trying to be white, trying to, you know, I mean, please jump in. You know, like,
or like you know, yeah. But in my actual like home, I found that it just wasn't a thing that was really. It was kind of shut down, I think, in my parents' life. You know, like so it wasn't supported as like I was just supposed to figure it out. Like it wasn't. This wasn't a thing. You know, it kind of has to be taught for you to teach someone to like
exactly.
you know how to like to support someone in learning or even get the resources. Like that wasn't a thing that was.
Yeah, and you know, my basic premise is just you have to be taught to learn. You have to learn how to learn, right? That's important. And there's issues of confidence that go with that. There's issues of, I mean, that's the whole thing we're talking about. Will Smith may have reacted out of a purely reactionary space. He may have done what he did because even after the fucking astronomical success this guy has had, he thinks he's a piece of shit because of what was reinforced when he was a young black man. That makes me want to just fucking cradle him in my arms. I mean, fuck, man.
Yeah. And you know, I will say, because you were talking about this earlier, like a little bit about like the gender norms and such. There's some things that I've seen that were like some of the information was like, I think it was eye-opening, but still there were some of these spaces that like with other influencers that were just like, it just felt like the same. And these were black, you know, like influencers that I was watching, except for one, I think maybe was Latinx but like these are black and brown people that are like kind of like on the one hand like saying, you know, basically like the you know masculinity is gone and like the feminization, and I really tried to listen to hear what was being said, and it just was the gender norms being reinforced. Like, no, act like this. You're supposed to get that woman together, not her let her get you together. And it's like that's actually still abusive. Like that's not how.
So yeah, and we talked about Tiffany Haddish and her very eloquent and beautifully stated, yet dead ass fucking wrong perceptions on this situation. That it was one of the most beautiful things she ever saw. That's fucking awful, man. I'm sorry, that's awful to say something like that and to lend your voice to this. I mean, maybe, you know, she's really close to the Smiths and, you know, she wanted to be protective of them. Sure, you know, but even as that's dangerous. That's to reinforce something like that. You know, why are there such antiquated antiquated gender roles still so prevalent within the black community? Like what I mean, I know of many black feminists, right? So why are there such still reinforced antiquated gender roles?
Why are there?
Yeah, why is that shit still? I mean, I assume the influencers, like, do you know one? Can we look up somebody like, you know, that you listen to? Let's just listen to some of their content for the stream, because
what is it like? What is it called? I want to say it was like mediocre tutorials.
Okay. I like that. That sounds really cool.
I know. I know. Like the thing is, it's challenging because some of the content he's showing and saying, like there are things that I am like, yeah, but then.
Hey, I like this dude. Let's see what he has to say. Ooh, he's a gamer too. I'm gonna subscribe to that. All right, which one did Will Smith destroyed? Protect black women. Maybe this one.
No, this wasn't. Well, was there some on here? I want to say.
Or the Candace Owens one.
No, there was a lot of stuff on there that I agreed with. Honestly, it's hard because it's not. Yeah. It wasn't necessarily in what he did about Will, although maybe there was some nuanced stuff. Like,
Let's listen to this one with Charlemagne.
Yeah.
Let's
But
listen
there's one
and
where
see
he
what-
goes.
yeah.
But that's what we're talking about. Yeah. Protecting black women. Because, it's all of these conversations that have started since the Will Smith situation on Sunday, the Will Smith Chris Rock situation. And it just got me to thinking, like, what does protecting black women look like to people?
Do you hit men?
Beat their ass.
Do they hit you back?
Never got hit back ever in life.
But knowing that they can knock you unconscious, isn't that the reason not to hit men?
Not if it's my baby daddy. A woman has to be in a position that she can be protected.
Uh-oh.
A woman has to deserve protection by the way she live her life or
I didn't hear
present
this part.
herself.
I did not hear this part.
A woman has to require protection because she is in her place, in her lane. And then men might feel that they can step in and protect her. A lot of our women don't.
Okay, go.
Okay, wait, stop. First off, I'm so glad that you picked this one because there was another one that I watched. I think another version of that watch where most of this shit was clipped out and there was only certain things that she was saying that I was like, and it was clipped in such a way that I was like, oh yeah, I'm feeling this. Now to hear the whole version, see, that's super deceptive. And it was on his thing, but like, yeah, okay, yeah. And then there's another one, I think if it's on this too, there's this another one where this lady is like basically saying black men need to beat their women into place.
Okay, let's listen to some. Let's listen to some of this. I like this one about gender roles now.
I want to be protected. You can't protect them whether anybody bothering them along. Sometimes we try to protect our women from a bad idea. She don't want no protection. So there's no situation where a man that don't know a woman can walk down the street and see somebody doing something to her and automatically just jump in. So that has to be an individual choice. And it has to be a situation where the woman is in order, not out there cussing, jumping up in men's face, screaming and hollering, acting a fool, trying to act like she a man. And then when some other man deal with her like she a man, then she want you to jump in and save her. It don't work like that.
It doesn't.
It don't.
Damn.
But wait, so do you hear that there though? So men are supposed to act like that, jump up in face, hollering, cussing, but women are just not. Ew. So you see what I'm saying? And really, this is about misogyny, which is like, bro, they go in, but like this is also like, it's something that was reinforced for me, like as a woman, by women.
By women.
As a black woman.
That's really interesting. Yeah. Why do you think? This is not, this is obviously, this lady is saying this now, but folks, we, when Nadine and I recently, like through the end of last year, we had done this group that I don't know if we've talked some about it previously, but the Women's Peer Development Group, right? So there was the intention to help women to... So the intention was twofold. The intention was there. I was there purely as a resource relative to method, right? To be able to learn method and to be used as an information resource in that way. But Nadine and another colleague of ours, so we have spoken about this previously, but several streams ago. And we, Nadine and her colleague came together and identified many different issues, real issues of struggles with housing, issues of struggles with watching their black sons be killed by police. And yes, that's not an exaggeration. And even real issues such as young black women being perhaps taken advantage of by black men in their community, and, perhaps placing a difficult barrier in the way of their own personal development because they have then immediately been cast in the role of mother and mother by herself while father of child may not be very present. Now, I know that's something that's personal to you, and that was even, you know, an important point of discussion that could have been approached in such a way as to be able to safely reflect on what cultural influences are there. Like, why did I decide to be, I mean, I had my son, you know, as I say, when I was 37 years old. Everyone who knew me, everyone who has ever heard me, like why did you ever have a kid? Right? Like it was that, right? So there was a very distinct reason why I was part of bringing my son into this world, right? And there was intention there. So even that could possibly be safely discussed in a space where Black women feel like they can speak to one another.
Yeah. Honestly and openly.
Yeah, claro, right? You know, but that's not how it happened. Like there were Black women there who were like, y'all need to stop this, in quotes, folks. Y'all need to stop having babies. And that was very damaging. Like that was a damaging statement to make, man. Yeah. And it brought up a lot of, amongst Black individuals, that men and women that were further became knowledgeable about this exchange, and it became a difficult space to navigate because people were of different opinions about whether that's okay.
Yeah.
So why do you think there is such a weird, not only gender typing amongst Black women, but why is there such a weird like hammer to Black women that seek to be different than what that gender typing may be?
Woo! And the hammer is so heavy, y'all. Like so heavy.
Her hammer looks heavy as fuck, man.
Yeah, can I just say, look at these two faces right now. Look at the looks. Like, does anybody else get like just this arrogance of coming across like I'm the authority here? And I feel like they could easily be saying, y'all just need to stop having babies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's the same.
And that guy has the face that we had when she said that. Mind you, not on a podcast, in a therapeutic space. This was with rules and like, you know, these are the rules of engagement and all that shit. And she's like, y'all need to just stop having babies. And it's like, what are you fucking doing? You crazy?
Yeah. Yeah.
What kind of thing is that to say when this woman over here, I mean, mind you, this was said to a woman who was speaking, who was a single mother, who was speaking about difficulties she's having with her landlord in a subsidized housing, affordable housing space, that those issues shouldn't be there. And she's like, I have to focus all my energy here because I can't do this. Like, I won't even get into the, you know, all of that story. That's for another time. But
it was like a support, like it was supposed to
but
be
for her to be able to be opened up about that, because she literally said, I don't talk to anybody about this. Y'all need to stop having babies. That'll fix it. It's like, no, that not having babies won't fix affordable housing issues.
And also, I can't unhave the children that I just talked to you about. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so I should go and start offing them right now is what you're saying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that wasn't at all helpful. And you don't know where a person's head is actually, you know, which is why I said something so drastic, because you really don't know where a person is.
Yeah.
And to be met with so much judgment and condemnation, like I personally experienced that, and I know so many Black women who've experienced that. And it's the challenge is not to be that or continue to be that if you've been that. You know what I mean? Like that's a challenge, especially when you keep getting it.
It's not even like, I mean,
like not for me not to teach that to
right,
my
but
kids
do we have
when
to
I'm
even
constantly
do we have to even accept the first premise, right? Folks, this was a Black woman saying this to a Black woman. So if she can say it, we have all been conditioned to have these latent racist ass perspectives that you just tickle at the back of our consciousness when you see a Black woman out in public with several children that she's walking with, being like, right? That is racist. And it's because it's assuming some level of like just fucking dark perspective that she's just a baby mill or whatever the case is, rather than, and folks, believe me when I say this, I don't have this experience directly, obviously, but I've been the son of an OBGYN, and the amount of experiences that I've had, especially even in counseling now, relative to working with women's developed trauma, there is not one child that a woman brings into this world that is not a profoundly paradigm shifting experience. So it ain't y'all just having babies. That's not, no woman just has a baby. That's not how that works. It is life shifting. And the pain that comes with being abandoned following such a life shifting experience can probably make people really pissed. So if you have that other racist attitude of why are black women always angry, fucking figure it out.
Yeah.
Then that was probably a racist thing to say too. That I should just we have to address stereotypes, and there are racist stereotypes.
It's not even just that. Like tune in. Like continue to tune in, because we really pull apart like anger and like the reasons for that. Like and you know what's going on in the world. If you really don't know, just tune in.
Yeah. I mean, folks, we're bringing this up because it also exists in real time. White judge, black defendant, black woman, single mother. I mean, she was literally told the equivalent of, you are receiving no consideration from me because you just need to stop having babies. It was that. It was like you were doing shit that wasn't appropriate for you. And folks, this wasn't about what the charge is, which is fraud, which resulted in theft of large sums of money. But let me just paint this picture for you. This is just this black woman criminal at this point, right? That's what the minds that are already made up by prosecution, by the judge, whatever the case is. But the reality is, if I told you how she did what she did, which was essentially like, I guess it's called embezzlement. Like, they didn't give her a rich white person's charge of embezzlement. It was just like theft. It was like low grade charge, right? But she was brilliant. And she did what lots of white old men do all the time at our expense, robbing companies of millions and millions of dollars, which are the result of our consumerism. So that affects us negatively at some point, such as raised costs, things like that. This woman was not seen as a brilliant strategist, right? She was seen as a criminal, and the mind was already made up, right? So there is and what was levied against her was like, nobody told you to have all those children that you then needed to support. And it wasn't just that, it was just like, it was also the taking away of a right to, it wasn't just, I was just stealing to support my children. I mean, it wasn't just that, it was just like, oh, and you decided to use some of that funds to send your child to this privileged education institution. How dare you? Like, folks, yes, that was wrong. The whole thing was wrong. But what the judge was pissed about was she would dare. She was like, you didn't just, she literally said, you didn't just steal to survive. You did this thing, this privilege thing. My God, so even in crime, you can't just access privilege? Are you fucking kidding me? Look, I'm already stealing shit. Can I just do cool shit with the money? Do I have to? I stole the money just to get more ramen noodles for myself. Like, what the fuck, man?
Oh my God.
I wish we could just say this in court because we'd be like, are you crazy? No, right. No, Your Honor. What was actually done was, I mean, it's so ridiculous. Are you fucking crazy?
And not even just that, but then also take a tongue thrashing or some sort of like demeaning comment or something because like, how dare you speak too? Like, how dare you, you
Folks,
personally like use your privilege?
Yeah, no joke. But one time she was like, the judge was literally like this. She was like, oh, I see Dr. Syed's on the call again. I mean, Zoom court. So we're in Zoom because she saw Dr. Syed. And she's like, oh, great. I was like, what?
Yeah.
You fucking twat. Like, you can't do that. Like, how are you being so, how do you demand respect and your honor and all this kind of stuff? And you're just,
you're like,
that's
here's the life coach.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. It's good that the defendant is getting life coaching, but I was like, oh my God. All right.
It was such an ego move. Like,
and folks, that was only because I made the distinction that I'm not, because there's a separate mental health evaluator for this defendant. So I was like, I'm not a mental health professional. I am a developmental and behavioral professional. And so I wanted to make that I was trying to like cross my T's and dot my I's. And she's like, and the next time, that was one time ago. And then the next time she's like, oh, here's the life coach. And I'm like, oh my God. And of course, this is ridiculous that we're even talking about this, just an ego thing, but I'm not a life coach, right? So fuck off. Like, I spent a lot of time studying and developing. Well, I didn't just study. I developed this fucking methodology and put it into practice in order to assess in multiple spaces its veracity and its reliability and its internal validity.
But when, I like that. Because, but when, what I noticed, like when that happened, when she started to be demeaning towards you and irritated was when you use your, education, you know what I mean? Like you use that like in order to represent, as far as informing in the way that, the defendant could not. Literally couldn't. And that's when it was just like, how dare you identify these issues?
I know.
Your freaking life coach.
I mean, that judge is not that different from this lady in her own regalia. I mean, I fucking hate it because I like the vibe. I like how she's dressed. But wouldn't it be great if she was just spitting wisdom, dude? Like, I mean, I would fucking love her then.
Right. I'm disappointed because I got the cut version. And this is the thing that's difficult even with, like looking for, thank goodness I have like a broader range now of like where I search for like information, but like I'm saying like even in the Black community, but like sometimes during this filtration process, because like there are things that he even says that I'm like, ooh, especially that he said like as far as, or points that he brought up as far as with like this slap situation. But overall I realized like as I started to take in more of his content, like, oh shit, I can't even go there with you because it's all mixed up into like misogyny, and like I didn't go any further actually.
Ooh, is it really? There. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and like unlike and
unsubscribe. I didn't see that
from this guy, but I'm gonna keep it as a watch later because I wanna watch more of what they say. But let's just watch a little bit more. I want to see if they go to another person.
It work like that.
It absolutely doesn't.
And you have to be careful because Black women will book a fight for you and walk away.
They're so close, dude.
How many of our black men are in jail right now because of
That's
situations
right.
like that?
And I know a lot of brothers who are taking time for sisters. So, you know, we need to watch that. They get them in trouble. They call themselves being a man, taking the, you know, the weight for the problem. And then she gone. He in jail.
Because I think for the first time.
So here's the thing, right? Like, okay.
There
is and there are real problems within the black community that can be addressed in the way that she just addressed them. However, like in any community, in the Indian community, there's all sorts of generational issues that have flowed down the line to create a particular kind of gender role. So you can say Indian women, they do this thing and they always do this. No one always does anything. Right. But there are certainly patterns of behavior that are established relative to that kind of cultural imprinting. And, you know, they cause repeat issues of domestic violence, repeat issues of I don't have to say anything else. Domestic violence, that's the one. Yeah. You know, so that kind of shit happens, and yet you can't say it like she fucking said it. You know, it's not. That's the wrong point she's making.
Yeah, and it's also like how can like with this attitude, how can a black woman come to someone like this, or come to like how can we go to anyone when this, like in your community, if it's like this, if like you have multiple people like this in your life, and everywhere you turn for assistance, for help, for support, to like actually address unhealthy patterns, there is judgment and condemnation and like, girl, just, you know, learn your place or play your part, stay in your role. And you're like, actually the role is the problem. Like, is there another solution that doesn't require me to be someone who I'm not? You know, like, and it doesn't, for me, I haven't experienced that it's a healthy thing to go someone with that attitude for help. Usually you're sent back to the thing that's the issue. Yeah. Or I have been.
So let's kind of round this out with some perspective that speaks to what especially you're speaking to, because we, you know, began that trajectory relative to, you know, kind of systemic and prominent problems relative to mental health care in black men. But black men are raised by black women, by black mothers. And single black mothers are especially victimized, even within the black community. And I think self-care is way down on the list for single black mothers. So it becomes a real fucking barrier, right? So let's just see what these women are talking about. This is from the Madame Noir.
The Victorian. We have a really good episode for you guys.
That slaps.
Many of the issues facing the black community require uncomfortable yet necessary conversations, and mental health is certainly one of those issues that's at the top of that list. According to the Health and Human Services Office of Minority Health, although African Americans make up just 13% of the population here in the U.S., we are 20% more likely to experience mental health issues more than any other race. And according to that same agency, African Americans disproportionately suffer from depression, ADHD, PTSD, but the problem even though we know these things, we're not talking about them in a real way and actually talking about the solutions.
So that brings us to the question of the week. Why aren't Black people talking about these mental health issues in our community? Let's get into it. Why aren't we having
Kind of like this format.
in the Black community?
We know one reason that we aren't talking about these issues in the Black community is general mistrust of doctors. We know historically a lot of doctors have used the profession to experiment on Black people, to hurt Black people, from Henrietta Lacks, the Tuskegee syphilis experiments. And so in general, we just don't have a good grasp on trusting medical professionals.
I also think we feel like mental health issues aren't something that affects our race. You know, we're like, oh, depressed, that's white people. You know, we don't get depressed. We don't get, you know, we think we don't kill ourselves, you know, and commit suicide. So I think there's just a real disconnect there.
Yeah, and I know that the struggle, or the Black struggle, is so real. We ain't got time to be depressed. You know, we got to go to work tomorrow. What am I gonna do if I'm dead? Like, I gotta go to work. Somebody gotta pay these bills. Somebody gotta watch these kids. Somebody gotta take care of, you know, Black women, we take care of everybody in the household.
Yeah. And there's like also shame just in admitting something's wrong. I think specifically for Black women, you know, where you feel like we've kind of gotten away from the strong Black woman, but it's still like, I'm not going to tell you all my business. I'm not going to tell you I struggle. I'm not going to tell you I cry at night. I'm not going to tell you, you know, these things.
So that's an important piece there. How are you feeling about that?
Yeah, and not even just I'm not going to tell you, but I'm not going to tell you how bad it is or how much it affects me, or like, you know, it but
yeah. she said we kind of got away from the strong Black woman stereotype, because that stereotype, I think, is what's suppressed, and that's what the whole issue is within the Black community, and Black women voicing against that stereotype, saying, oh, then Black women are just expected to be like these solid pillars, you know, but they aren't. No one is, and that creates a lot of issues. So how do you feel relative to that? Like, were you ever aware? Did you become aware of that? Like, I can't, like, I'm not supposed to deal with myself because I gotta, like,
it's still a struggle. It's still hard for me to be like, okay, you know, but I'm definitely working on it. Where before I wouldn't even entertain the thought of, like, you know, caring for myself and like, all right, I need to actually sit down and write, maybe something's on my mind and I can't exactly pick it out. I need to like express this, find a way to really work through this. That was like that was so far down. I don't think I even able to do this. Like no, it did, because I would do it in an artistic way, but it wasn't enough just to do it as it's beautiful, like it's been a healing thing for me. But after a while, I needed something deeper, and it was just a way, like the artistic part of it, or the like writing a poem, even though it helped some, it wasn't all of it. You know, it just wound up being a coping tool instead of, you know, me actually like getting to the issue. So now, you know, I definitely do make space for that and hold time for that. But yeah, it's still an everyday, like, you know, no, even today, when there's a million things on your list, or when you have some things that are going to be especially challenging, like for me, you know, it's remembering like, oh yes, that's right, I said that I am worth like taking this time for myself. But it's still, in other spaces, I think, reinforce that, you know, that's not the right way to be, that it's more important to, like, you know, present as like, I'm this, you know, force that can like get on a button. Like, I do these things, but like it, in some spaces, like with family, like it's almost reinforced, like, you should be willing to struggle like you used to, even though I'm entertaining and like more ideals, and I'm like doing more things like that I did, I'm doing more than I did before in a different way, but like it's still expected that I like struggle and like, you know, make some great grand gesture even to show that I still have what it takes to like muddle through, and that's not the direction I'm trying to take in my life. So it's met with some barriers, you know.
Yeah, and those are cultural barriers, and they're very strong, because here we are in April 22, and You know, the women's peer development group, which was supposed to be a space where women, Black women, can come together and ask for help, ask to, you know, ask everyone else to help hold space for them and with them. And it didn't last. Like, and I think that was purely a function of, through a couple of specific sessions that we had, I think it was an awareness of how deep we could all go, and then a rejection of that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate. So let's hold, because I think there's a lot of value to what these guys are saying. I want to come back to them. But I think that's a whole other space, because I think now we're going to find the intersection between, you know, the expectations placed on Black women, and how that affects self-care and self-development, but then also the expectations placed on Black women, not just in terms of the strong Black women archetype, but what a Black woman is supposed to look like and how she's supposed to present, and that impacts different aspects of development in terms of serious barriers, right? So we'll come back to that next time on what this has been another episode of Humanist Nightmare Fuel. As always, with the lovely Nadine Pueros and myself, Dr. Siraj, we bid you adieu, and hope that you continue to practice the beautiful art of self-appraisal. Good night.
Good night.